Very good morning and welcome to Join Funding Options for Startup and Growth Companies webinar. I'm Anne Valtakari from Business Tampere and I'm acting as a technical moderator in this webinar. A few practical instructions at this point. To let you know that this event is recorded and the recording will be available in Business Tampere YouTube channel tomorrow. And also every registered participant will get a link. You can ask questions throughout the whole webinar via the Brella chat. Noora Vaaraniemi from Business Tampere will raise questions from the chat at the end of the event. And the chat function can be found in Brella on the Stream tab. And so much for the general instructions, and now we can start. And opening words of this webinar will be presented by Tapio Siik from Business Tampere. So Tapio, please.
Good morning to everyone. Also on my behalf, I'm Tapio Siik and I work as a business advisor in Business Tampere. We've been running these kind of funding related webinars and information events throughout, I would say, the last year or so in the webinar format, which is, of course, mainly due to the COVID situation. We've been having webinars which have been focusing on only certain kind of funding instruments, but we've also done this kind of more generic events. This is the second one in English, and we've done also a couple of similar ones in Finnish. The last one, I think, was in November last year, so we thought that it would be a good time to go through again a little bit the basics on all the services Business Tampere provides, and also on generic level how the funding options work for startups and growth companies. So the agenda for today is such that I will be first going through the Business Tampere service offering on the advisory services for funding, and then Tommi Pajala will be presenting the funding options for startups and growth companies. After that, we have, as Anne said, time for questions and answers. So I encourage you all to go to Brella and in the chat. Ask the questions you want. After the webinar, both Tommi and myself are available in Brella for short meetings, mainly targeted to sort of have the first contact and then agree on the next possible meetings or actions what we would like to take. So let's go first through the Business Tampere services, what we have here for the funding advisory. I'm responsible mainly for all of these, and then I will be going now through the different areas and types of advisory services we have. So we have what we call funding clinics and sparring for growth, which is sort of done at the same time. Then we have a tool where we can actually work with you as a company to get analysis done on the funding readiness of your company, mainly for the private investment side. Then we have a different kind of trainings, webinars, networking, a few words about those. And then we have a funding help desk as well. And we'll cover that in the end of this presentation. The funding clinics and growth sparring is something I've been running since the beginning of last year. And you can get and book time for this clinic through the web link you can see there on the top. With that, you can see the free slots in my calendar, and then you can select there the one that suits your calendar, and the reservation is done that way. What we can, every company, of course, is different, which means that there is no fixed format for these clinics. The areas I'm covering, or we can cover together, of course, in these clinics are focusing on growth sparring. That's a slightly different topic, maybe from the funding, but it's very closely related. So if you are just thinking about new options for your company to grow, you can get into this funding clinic, and then we can talk about just the growth. Then we can go through the funding sort of a roadmap and strategical options. Then if you are already looking into the funding process itself, talk about the funding documents that may be needed and are needed there. And then also the execution of the funding route itself, especially if we are talking about private funding. So let's cover first the growth sparring. The growth sparring main idea here is that if you want someone to challenge your ideas and then sort of discuss about your plans to grow your company, I'm more than happy to have a chat with you. And the main idea here is really to see that and make sure that you've sort of thought about the growth requirements from all different angles. Is the personnel sort of a resources thought through? Is the funding in place, and so forth? So it's not something that I will sort of give you a plan how to grow. You have to develop the plan, and then we can discuss that. Then the next area we cover in the clinics is quite often it's talking about the available funding instruments, both public and private side. So give an overview, what is out there, what kind of grants and loan instruments you can think of, and what would be then maybe the best suited for your purposes. Then, of course, there are different kind of application processes for the public funding, and then there is the fundraising process for the private side for angel rounds and venture capital funds. But one key thing, what I always emphasize in these clinics, is that you should take a holistic view on the funding of the company. So it's not just about getting the money for the next 3 months or 6 months. You should be thinking always longer term, going at least, I would say, a couple of years forward, but preferably even further. Then if there's a need, of course, we can cover different kind of terminology that's related to funding. And also when you are especially raising private funding, there are all kinds of parameters you need to think about, valuation, and then different kind of terms that appear in the term sheet, which the investor puts on the table, meaning that, okay, these are the terms I'm interested and willing to invest in your company. So what really is there? The point here is that after this discussion, you should have sufficient information to plan your own funding and start thinking about the key parameters, what you need to look into when you start to raise the funding. Then next, there's always all kinds of documentation needed, whether you are looking for the public funding or private funding. Some examples are the so-called elevator pitch in 30 seconds or 1 minute. You need to be able to explain what you are doing and why are you looking for funding and what you will be doing with it. Then there is like a data sheet or one-pager, which is mainly used for introductions to investors, which is a summary of your company, where you are, and then what kind of funding you are looking for. Then there are, of course, these investor pitches and documentation needed for private funding rounds. So there is the public pitch, which mainly is given to a wider audience. And then there are materials and pitches that you need to prepare for having one-on-one investor meeting. I have all kinds of examples and templates I can give you here, but again, you yourself have to prepare all these materials. So I'm not going to write them for you, but I'm there to give you feedback, recommendations, and ideas that how you can develop and make the materials better, and what kind of homework you need to be doing so that you can answer all the questions that which the investors, whether they are public again or private, will be asking you when you are raising funding. Then when the documentation is in place, then of course there is the execution of the funding round. This is now mainly related to angel or VC rounds. So the first thing you need to always do is to really think about the investors which are a good fit for you. So who are the investors you want to approach, instead of just going out there and then trying to talk with everyone, because then you are wasting your time, and you're also wasting the investors' time, because there is no match there. There are all kinds of tools available and databases which can help us to find the investors that potentially could be interested in your kind of a company. And then I can help you there. And there is also the marketing side of the funding round, which needs to be looked into. So it is actually a sales process, which requires that you make yourself known that you are looking for funding, and also generate interest in that way. And I myself have a background on VC funds and angel investors. So I'm more than happy to do introductions if there is a match in my network. But I must be very clear that Business Tampere is by no means involved in the actual funding meetings or discussions. That's always between you and the potential investor. And there's nothing I can sort of do as part of those. But as an objective here is really to for you to be able to execute the funding round in an orderly manner and start the discussions with the investors, or if you choose so, maybe buy services to facilitate these kind of funding rounds, because those are also out there available. Then going to a slightly different area is the analysis of the funding readiness. This is something that this is a tool I use as part of the funding clinic discussions. So if you are looking for mainly angel funding, this is a tool which gives you in 15-20 minutes a good view of the readiness of your company for angel investments. It shows you where you are roughly on the readiness level, but it also gives you a list of areas which you need to improve in order to be more attractive as an investment target. So that's what you get out of this immediately. And then you can also repeat this test later and see where the progress has been happening, or if there has been any progress. Hopefully there is. For Business Tampere, we basically get aggregated data here. So we see roughly where the different companies and startups in the region are related to each other, and also compared to the rest of the country. So then we do all other kinds of trainings, webinars, and networking events. So we've been organizing pitch training, which we always partner with someone else. So we get professionals train you how to present to investors or present your company in general to anyone. So and also we had a webinar where we were focusing on the remote pitching, which has been basically the only way to pitch for the last year or so because of the pandemic. Then we are organizing, as I said, webinars focused on only certain instruments. So there's been different kind of Business Finland ecosystem funding webinars. The EU funding instruments have been very much on the front lately, and in general the startup funding from Finvera and so forth. And we're also organizing networking events for international investors and local investors. So that's also one part of our activities. Then we also have in the region different kind of accelerator and growth programs we are partnering with. So we are in Pirkanmaa Kasvupolku, Kasvu Open, and which is now ongoing as we speak. We've been running also Aeroscale's program, which helps the companies that are in the program to go to European markets. We have a Tampere Game Hub, very active community focusing on the gaming companies. And then we have also Red Brick Accelerator, which is targeted for, I would say, early stage teams, which may not have the company yet, and they want to develop their business idea further before they decide to go for the actual business and set up the company. Then last but not least, We have also a help desk for financial services, which has been conducted by Tommi Pajala. So this is a service, help desk, where you can call if you have something which is very sort of a short or easily answered. As an example, you are filling in the Tempo application for Business Finland, and there is something there that you are not sure what you should be saying there, or you don't understand exactly what the content there should be. Then I can encourage you to get in touch with the help desk, and then you will get the answers from there. And that basically concludes my part. And here now then Tommi Pajala will take over and go through the different funding options for startups. Tommi, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Tapio. Let me get my my slides up first, and I hope you can see them now. So welcome to this webinar from my behalf as well. My name is Tommi Pajala, and I've been involved in startups and growth companies for the past 20 years. First 10 years mainly focusing on my own companies, doing stuff like you see there in the background. And for the past 10 years, I've been helping other companies get funded and grow, and helping like over 400 companies with funding related things. And I'm now also a service provider for Business Tampere. And when you call the number or send me an email, it's me who's going to answer your questions about funding. And this is basically what I do through my own company, Fimentum. Meet a lot of companies, see what they're going to do and what they want to do and where their money is going, and trying to figure out these funding puzzles for the companies. And what we're going to focus on today is more generic funding related things, like sources of public and private funding for startups and growth companies, and then the criteria and the fundability and the expectations of those different funding parties, and then also the funding path and timing. And I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, so I think we should have plenty of time for questions at the end. So let's start with the important split between two groups of companies. If you have like a traditional basic business, so if it's retail, wholesale, traditional services with a traditional business model, then the available funding is quite limited. It's mainly banks. Finnvera can guarantee bank loans or give direct loans, and there's some support for employment, but it's pretty limited. But if you have like an innovative growth company, which means that you have some unique self-developed product or service with a market differentiation, and if you have a large international market and scalable business model, then you have a lot more options. For example, Business Finland, ELY Center, the European Union, angels and venture capital companies, and crowdfunding. These are the ones that we're going to focus today most, but of course, some of them are covered with the basic businesses as well. But don't worry if you're in a traditional market, because it doesn't mean that you have a traditional business. For example, you can do raw cakes or handmade guitars or school photos in a very different way, and you can attract a lot of both public and private funding, doing things in a different way. When we think about funding, I like to think of it in 4 different categories. And first of all, the entrepreneurs. So you don't have to be rich, but you usually need to take some risk at least to get others involved. And the other group is investments from angel investors or venture capital companies or similar sources of investment. Third group, so-called soft money, which is public funding, grants and loans from the government, the European Union, or some local development agencies. And the fourth group is loans from banks and similar. And if you have like an innovative growth company, as a general rule of thumb, if you're developing something new, if you're going international, you can get up to 50% of this so-called soft money. But note that the soft money is not easy money. It used to be years and years ago, but now the criteria of all parties such as Business Finland are becoming more strict. And the other half can be then covered by your customers, investors, entrepreneurs, loans, whatever. But especially for startups, it's always good to remind that don't forget the customers, because they are the number one source of funding. And all the negotiations with public and private financiers become so much easier if you have revenue, if you have paying customers. And then the funding sources for public funding. Finvera is the first one. They have guarantees for basically every company, so they can guarantee up to 80% of a bank loan, and they also can provide direct loans for some companies. Business Finland used to be called Tekes. They have grants and loans for rapid international growth, so international is very important for Business Finland. Then the Center of Economic Development, Transport and the Environment, ELY, they have grants for developing products and services in some regions, for example, here in Tampere for younger companies. And then they have grants for international growth in most regions. And they also support buying consulting services from different consultants. And that's available in all regions of Finland. And then the European Union, they have grants for big ideas with big impact. So there needs to be a wider impact in what you do if you want to get a grant from the European Union. They also provide guarantees for bank loans for innovative companies up to 10 million euros. And if you're a larger company and you have an innovative company, then you can apply for direct loans if the amount is over 10 million euros. And the other more rarely used sources of public funding are local cities, regions, development agencies. They usually don't have direct grants, but at least they have the ability to buy pilot projects, and they have some. They can have some funding for hiring new personnel. And funds and foundations, most of them can be found from Aurora Tietokanta. That's a database for those foundations. And usually they provide funding for science and arts and environment and things like that. And then there are also market-specific agencies. For example, the European Space Agency, they provide a lot of funding if you have something to do with space or satellites or something like that. Creative Europe, they have funding for creative and also game development. And Kopiosto here in Finland, they have grants up to 30,000 euros for creative projects and games and demos. And these funding agencies provide funding through specific instruments. So here's a list of the names of those instruments. So if you want to Google afterwards, you can take a closer look at these and also ask about these after the presentation. ELY Center, they have yrityksen kehittämisavustus. It's currently only in Finnish and Swedish, but that's the grant for product development and going international. And then on national level, Business Finland is the largest financier here in Finland. The first instrument that they provide is the innovation voucher. It's a 4,000 euro grant for buying services, any services related to a new innovation with international potential. The next step is usually Tempo. It's a 50% grant for mainly for internationalization, but also for R&D. But if you're doing some heavy R&D, then they provide loans up to 50% of the product development costs, and that's usually over 100,000 euros. There's also this temporary TKA RDI loan, That's available until it was the 15th of October, I believe, and it's for 50 to 70% of product development costs. And if you have a young innovative company, meaning that your company is less than 5 years old, you can apply for Young Innovative Companies grant for rapid international growth, and it can be up to 1.25 million euros, and it's a combination of grants and loans. You can get a second Tempo grant if you attend a international accelerator in some other country, and Business Finland also provides co-innovation funding if you do research together with other companies and universities. And they have Explorer funding for international growth, so you can buy services or hire a person or attend trade shows that help you get to a new international market. And then on a national level, Finvera as well, so they have loans for entrepreneurs. So if you want to invest into your own company, you can apply for a personal loan from Finvera to do that investment. And most of their funding is guarantees for bank loans. So if you want to, for example, get a 100,000 euro loan from a bank, Finvera can guarantee 80% of that. So your risk is then a lot lower with Finvera. They also have some direct loans available as well. And on an international level, the European Union have grants for single companies. It's now called the Horizon Europe program. And they have grants for consortiums of companies from a minimum of 4 different countries. And they also have those guarantees for bank loans. And the public funding that was mentioned there, it's almost always for projects, so not for companies but for projects. So they all have their own strict criteria, what the scope of the project can be and how the funds can be used, and what's the correct timing for the company to apply for a specific project and what's the goals going to be. So they vary a lot, but it's also always for projects. So you have to have some sort of project plan. It has to have some actions, and it has to have some goals, and it has to have a budget. And then the other side, the private funding, angel investors and venture capital companies. So angel investors are usually private persons who invest most likely tens of thousands of euros, sometimes hundreds of thousands into your company. And then venture capital companies are companies who invest other people's money, for example, pension funds money. And I think the most common question is where to find them. Tapio can help you with that. And then there's also events, local events, Arctic 15, FIBAN events, /events. They're mostly online now, but hopefully in the future you can attend those in person as well. And there are angel investor networks here in Finland. FIBAN is the largest one, and EBAN is the European version of that. And they are pretty active, and you can find more information on those sites. And then you can also use LinkedIn, for example, and Asiakastieto as a good source of finding angel investors if you look at the board members or the advisors of different companies from your area of business. And on the VC side of things, they also have their own networks. FVCA is the Finnish one, and Invest Europe is the European-wide venture capital company network. And Crunchbase, for example, there are others, but Crunchbase is a pretty useful tool because they track investments and investors. If you look at some of your peer companies, for example, in your own area of business, you can see what investment companies have invested into those companies and how much and who are the contact persons there. And crowdfunding is another source of private funding. It can be either an investment or it can be like pre-sales. Kickstarter and Indiegogo are usually pre-sale. So if you're developing something and you want to sell the product before it's finished, you can use those services. And Investor is a crowdfunding platform. There are others as well who can help you with arranging a wider crowdfunding-based investment round. So you will have most likely tens of or hundreds of investors into your company. Banks are another source of private funding. It's loans or credit limits with Finnvera guarantee. And there are other private financiers as well. So who's expecting what? All of them are usually expecting a product or service with some unique selling point, USP. A scalable business model, an international market, and usually most importantly, a team who can execute the growth plan. It's very rare that anyone will fund a single person, an inventor, but you should always have a team. And banks are the most simple one here. All they expect is their money back with interest. The Ely Center, they focus on creating new job opportunities in the local area. Export revenue is good as well, but mainly creating new jobs. Business Finland, they expect millions of euros in export revenue in 5 years. So you have to have ambitious growth goals and you have to operate in an international market to get money from Business Finland. Crowdfunding and so-called FFF, Friends, Fools and Family, more often than not, it's being part of the journey, but of course, some return for the investment would be good as well. And angel investors and VCs, they want their money back with a good investment ratio, so they want to get more money out of it than they put in. And as a note, use investor money for sales and marketing, because you can usually get grants and loans for product development, but the investor money should be used in sales and marketing. And then finally, a typical funding path. So there was a lot of these names of funders and the instruments, but this is the typical funding path for a startup in Finland. So you would start with the Business Finland innovation voucher, then have a small angel investment round, either invest yourself or get some angel investor to invest a minimum of 30,000 euros to get the Business Finland Tempo grant. And then when you proceed, for example, the Business Finland R&D loan, usually you require a small investment from an angel or a small investment fund. And during all that time, you can get bank loans with Finnvera guarantee. So that's a typical first 12 months for a startup in Finland. And then if you move on from that, you could get a second Business Finland Tempo grant for attending an international accelerator program. And then it's usually a VC investment and another Business Finland R&D loan, so you can have multiple of those if you're developing a larger product. And moving on from that, it's VC investments and possibly the Young Innovative Companies program. And all the time you can also get back loans with European Union guarantee if you apply for a bit larger amounts of money. Most banks here in Finland have special programs with the European Union that they can provide these guarantees from the European Union. And then last, some current topics. Last week, Business Finland announced that they will be able to hand out an additional 150 million euros per year from the Sustainable Growth Program. They will provide more info this summer, and first funding decisions in the fall. So I don't have any other information than that on that, but hopefully we'll get more information soon. And the Horizon Europe funding programs are finally kicking off. And there was a similar webinar a couple of weeks ago on that, so you can check it out on the Business Finland Business Tampere YouTube channel. The slides are in English there. And the application period for this Business Finland R&D loans in disruptive circumstances, so-called COVID loans, they are still available until October the 15th. So they have once again extended that. So they're available for SME and mid-cap companies and also foundations. But the minimum employee count is 6. So you have to have at least 6 full-time wage earners to get that. And it can be used for R&D projects where you modernize your product or services or production methods. So it's you can use it more freely than the traditional R&D loans, but there's the you have to have some sort of a COVID-related need behind the development project. But that's all from me. So I'll stop sharing these, and if you have any questions, I think now's the time for the questions.
Yes, thank you very much, Tommy. So let's go now to the questions part, and then Nora, are there any questions? Yes.
We have some questions here, but also if something comes into your mind, be quick and type something to the Brella chat. And if you have troubles of finding this Brella chat, you can find it from the stream tab on the left side, and there you can find the chat as well. But we have some questions here, and first to Tapio. Tapio, how long are these Business Tampere services, so clinic service and the help desk services, in use?
Use one session normally. What you can reserve in that web app application in my calendar, that's 1 hour slot, and but it's not limited to one time. So it's not the intention that, okay, in 1 hour we cover all of those areas or some of the big part of the areas I explained. So normally how it goes is that the first session is pretty much sort of mapping the situation, where the company is, what the plans are, what are they planning to do. And then based on that, we decide what are the next actions. So far, since the beginning of last year, I've now met about 115, 120 teams and companies, and I've had about 350 sessions or meetings with these companies. So as an average, it's 2 to 3 discussions with every company. With some companies, it's only 1 meeting, and it's the issues are sort of resolved. So there's no need for further discussions. But with some teams and companies, I've met maybe 5, 6 times even. So it's really based on the need what the company has.
But is it so that these services they will be running through this year, or will it be continuing next year? So
yeah, this is a continuous service. So it's there now, and well, as far as I know, we are going on also next year. So there's no changes are planned.
Great. Then there's a question about this funding readiness tool. So is it available online, or how can you?
Well, the tool itself, yeah, the tool actually is something that it is an online tool, and the way to access it is basically get in touch with me, and I can provide the link to the tool. You fulfill the questionnaire. There are 55 questions there, which takes about less than half hour to answer. And then you get the report out of that. And the way I've been using it, is mainly that, in the first discussion I had with the company, we sort of see that, okay, this tool could be useful here. So I sent the link to the company, they fill in the questionnaire, and then we have another 1 hour call where we can go through the results and discuss maybe the next actions and steps we need to take.
Great. Then what about one question for Tapio, you as well? So is Business Tampere connected with impact investors? So investors who are motivated with the long-term impact to the climate change, for example?
First of all, we are working with all the investors. So we have no let's say investor list we sort of promote or push for. So yes, absolutely. Among the connections we have, there are impact investors there as well. But it's all based on pretty much like personal connections and let's say the activity of these funds, how much they want to participate in our events and sort of discussions. But the answer is yes, but well, we basically we try to help with any kind of investor search.
Yeah, great. So then there's a question to Tommi, that is it so that a company needs to demonstrate revenue first, regardless of the funding instrument?
No, definitely not. Basically, all funding is available for pre-revenue companies as well. Of course, it's easier if you have some revenue, but for example, if you're developing like a new drug, for example, or a new tool for medical services, of course, you can't have any revenue. So it basically, well, it depends a lot on the business. But for example, if you go to Business Finland and apply for the innovation voucher or Tempo funding or R&D funding, you don't need to have any revenue. Same goes for ELU, you don't have to have any revenue. And there are some cases where banks would like to see revenue, but that's not a necessity either. I think the only one is the Business Finland Young Innovative Companies, because that's money that has to be used for international growth and speeding up the growth. So you have to show around 20 or 30,000 euro per month of recurring revenue to get into that program. But basically all the others are available for pre-revenue companies as well.
Thanks. Then there's a question for R2B, so is it research to business? I'm not sure. Yeah, business fund. So how can a project find a business champion or a steering group, especially if the company is working in medical software sector?
Well, the university can help there. They have a lot of connections inside the university. But for example, LinkedIn is a good place. People in general like to help. And you can just go into LinkedIn, look at the interesting persons there and just approach them through a LinkedIn chat, for example. And I'm involved in a lot of those in the medical field as well. And I've never had a no for answer. So people like to help.
Yeah, I would also say the same thing, and about this, which used to be totally projects, now they're research to business. I would also emphasize the importance of the university commercialization people there who are more or less facilitating the whole process there. They have their networks, and definitely it doesn't hurt just to get in touch with maybe with Tommi or me, and we have our connections as well. So it is sort of a matter of just going out there and asking. As Tommi said, people tend to be willing to help, and sometimes of course it doesn't. It's not a hit for the first time, but just keep going.
Thanks for your answers. Then there's questions related to Business Finland. So the funding programs for internalization, like Explorer with Business Finland, have statements like not for marketing. So can you tell what is available for getting like first customers when going international, and like how is Business Finland defining the internalization?
Yeah, that's a problem because of course it would be great to have public support for direct sales and marketing, but it's like distortion. What's it called in English? Distorting the competition. That's mainly the reason why the funding is for research and R&D. But for example, in Tempo funding, you can conduct market research. So ask your target customers how would they feel about a product like this. So it's pretty close to sales, but you can't do direct sales. And in Tempo, you can also do like investigative marketing. So you can actually use money for Google marketing, for example. So it can be done, but it's direct sales and marketing. It's not something that you can do with government grants, except for the young innovative companies funding.
Yeah, this is always the discussion, because it is a gray area there, where the real marketing starts, and which is like preparation for marketing. And of course, it's also possible to do different kind of pilot projects with potential customers, just to test the sort of the product market fit and everything. So I would say that you can start sort of doing and preparing the marketing activities quite well, and Business Finland normally has nothing to say about that. But as Tommy said, it can't be really like a clear marketing sales efforts what you do with these grants.
Yeah. Then there's a question about EU funding. So who is helping with the funding application? Is there any like public advisor helping to seek EU funding?
Well, Business Finland does have a few persons who help with that. They have their dedicated website for EU funding, but most of the help is from private companies, and there are a lot of those who focus mainly on European level grants.
Yeah, I would also say that go first to the Business Finland website. They actually have, I think, their links also maybe to a couple other publicly available advisors there. But we had on the 19th, we had this EU funding seminar, which Tommy also already mentioned, and it is something, applying for the EU funding is quite a lot more, I'd say, tedious process than working here in Finland with Business Finland or Finvera. So some kind of help, I would say, absolutely is needed. So you shouldn't try to go through that by yourself, because especially now in these new instruments, they have actually limited the number of times you can apply for the funding. Earlier, you could apply for the same funding for as many times as you wanted to, but now there is a certain limit, and there is like a period that I think it's 12 months, you need to refrain from reapplying if you are rejected. So you should be making the application as good as possible the first time.
Yeah. Then for both of you, a question, what means VCs and what is the right way to approach them?
VC, yeah, well, sorry for the jargon here, because we are so used to it. So VC is a venture capital. So venture capital fund is a company, more or less, which is investing other people's money. That's the key differentiation between the angel investors and VC funds, that the angels are investing their own money, and normally there is only one person who is doing it from their own pocket. But VC funds are, I would say, commercial companies which are making investments on behalf of other people. And normally there is a team there, minimum, I would say 2-3 people. When the fund size grows bigger, the team also normally grows bigger. So they are institutional investors. Maybe that's one other wording for it.
Good to clarify that. And yeah, Was there also the how to approach those?
Okay, how to approach? Well, the Finnish ones, they actually have the Finnish venture capital funds. They have their own organization and they have a website, fvca.fi, I think, or com. I'm not quite sure. Finnish Venture Capital Association. They have their list of all the of their members, and also the contact information. So if you just want to sort of see what funds are there and then where they are, that's one way. Then, of course, because the funds are making business by investing money, they are also, they have their own websites. And I think in Google, if you just put their Finnish VC fund or VC funds in the Nordics, you will get to quite a few different places where you can see who is out there. But that's also something which I also already mentioned in my own this talk there, that you really shouldn't try to just approach any VC. You need to do your homework with the investors and figure out whether the VC is, first of all, investing at the moment, if they are investing in a company that, at your stage, and if they are investing in a company, companies like you, what you are doing. There are funds who are only invest in software, some only in games, some in hardware and so forth. So shooting out there to just about any VC doesn't make any sense. But well, of course, Tommy and myself can also help here. So when that's actually one big part of the discussions I have in the clinics quite often, that, okay, what funds or maybe even angels would make sense to approach.
Thank you, Tapio. Then a last question for both of you. I mean, you can share who will answer first. Do all funding bodies expect us to own our technology and not leverage other companies' technology?
Well, I'll just go quick. I would say that the ownership of the IPR is important, but it doesn't mean that you have to own all of the IPR, but you definitely need to have license to all the other IPR you are using or basing your service or solution on. So it has to be a clean sheet in a way that there is no breaching of other companies' IPR or licenses. So I guess that's what I would like to say about that. Tommy.
Yeah, that's especially true for VCs. And if you look at the public funding side, Business Finland requires the company to own the key IPR. So you need to own, or you need to have an exclusive license for the IPR. And they also require that you're not totally dependent on one single other company. So if you're building technology on top of some other technology, you would need to have some choices. If, for example, that other company ceases to exist or doesn't support you anymore, so then there should be some options there as well. So you should own your own key IPR. It's usually the rule of thumb.
Yeah. Thank you, Tommy and Tapio, for answering, and thanks for the audience about the questions. And let's now move on. And once again, I would like to encourage everyone to settle meetings there in Brella, and especially Tapio and Tommy are there, these funding experts on your service. So it's a great opportunity to have a quick chat there. But let's move on.
Thank you, Nora. And thanks for the questions, everyone. So we still have the closing words of this webinar left, and I will now let Tapio continue. So please.
Yeah, this sounds so formal, closing remarks, but more or less, also I would like to thank everyone there for the very good questions we got this time. And I would say maybe one thing I would now emphasize for everyone, every basically startup and company here in Finland this year, is to really start taking a close look at all the EU funding opportunities and instruments. because that's one area where Finland is really lagging behind the rest of Europe. So we are sort of sending a lot of money to EU, but we are not actively enough taking it back from there. So there, and now when the new funding period is starting, all the application processes are now opening, or some of them are already open. So we had this seminar on the 19th. I really encourage all of you to go and look at the materials or look at the whole webinar in YouTube, because that was a very good overview for the startup companies, especially what kind of opportunities there are for the EU funding. This local funding with Business Finland, Finvera, and so forth is continuing pretty much on the same tracks. Of course, the pandemic, the Corona COVID funding instruments and sort of temporary funding is, I would say, hopefully it is going away, which means that we are getting over the pandemic, but also follow that, how it develops, because there may be also still some funding and help coming from the government regarding that. And those applications, of course, you should be filling in there as well. So once more, thank you. And as Nora and Anne said, Tommy and myself are now then in Brella. I think there are still a few slots there open, at least for me, and I'm more than happy to have a quick chat and then agree there maybe for the next steps and how to continue the discussion on some other forums. So everyone, have a very good beginning of the summer. The weather is really nice now, so let's keep going and keep in touch. Thank you.